Hello, everyone, and welcome to Building Loved Businesses, where we spotlight remarkable companies that are loved in their communities, but maybe not so well known outside of them. My name is Nathan Schock. I've been working with hundreds of business leaders over the years to help them grow with fewer growing pains, and I'm really excited about today's guest. Matt Carlson is the founder of Fix It Forward Auto Care, and he founded it not to chase profit, but to save a nonprofit. And in the process, he's building a growing business that's changing lives in Fargo and beyond. So Matt, welcome to the show. Let's start with your journey. Just tell us, you were working as an engineer at Microsoft, which must have been a pretty comfortable living. So what sparked the transition to fixing cars?
Yeah, so I spent 15 years at Microsoft as a software engineer, but while working as a software engineer, I always had a passion for cars. Like I just love cars. I love old cars. I love performance cars. I love big lifted trucks. And so I had kind of created a hobby of fixing up old cars. I'd buy them, restore them, put them in the garage. And as I did that, I started accumulating a lot of cars, and I started wondering, like, well, how many cars does one person really need? What am I going to do with all these cars? Maybe I could be using this passion for something more valuable. And I had a lot of friends that I worked with at Microsoft and outside of Microsoft who also were car fanatics and just love working on cars. And so we were talking and we thought, hey, maybe we could use this skill that we have, or in this passion. It's probably more passion than it was skill at that point, to be able to help other people in our community by fixing cars for them. So we started a nonprofit that is now called Fix It Forward Ministry that would fix up cars for people in need in our community so they could have reliable transportation, and that reliable transportation would get them jobs so they could become self-sufficient and be able to, lift themselves up from where they were currently at.
Yeah, great. And it sounds like that it really took off, right?
Nope.
You found a need.
There was certainly a need. We went and talked originally with the local women's shelter and the YWCA, and we asked them, we said, we want to do this. Do you think this makes sense? Do you need even something like this? And they told us that transportation was the number one barrier for independence for the women that they help. They had solutions for education, or getting jobs, for housing, for childcare, for counseling. What they didn't have solutions for was transportation. And so as we started this, we immediately found a lot of need. We also found a lot of people that wanted to become involved with this. And so we were able to continue growing this up. And the first couple of years grew fairly well. But then I realized that I got so much purpose and value myself out of helping other people with this, that it really started offsetting what I was doing at Microsoft. And Microsoft was a great company to work for, but the reality was I was a really small cog in a really big wheel. And so to make a meaningful, lasting impact there was difficult, where I was just changing lives every day with our nonprofit. So ultimately, I left Microsoft to go put my full-time effort into this nonprofit, and that's when it really.
Got it. Yeah. But you didn't stay long, right, at the nonprofit, because you had some challenges at running it that way that made it so you thought the answer was to start up a for-profit.
Right.
Can you walk me through those challenges and what was behind that decision?
Well, once I started putting 40 hours a week or more into the nonprofit, it started growing. And I learned one secret to running a business is, if you give away all of what you do for free, it's real easy to grow. And so everything just started exploding. And then we started having problems, and logistics problems of, we didn't have places to park the cars. We didn't have a big enough shop to work out of. We were working out of the shop on my personal farm. We didn't have office space to work with. And we had a logistic problem with insurance. And as it turns out, we were uninsurable as we were organized. If you look at Garage Keepers Insurance, what they have for auto shops, they ask two questions when you get insurance. One is, how many ASC certified technicians do you have? And the second one is, what's your monthly revenue that you do? And when the answer to both of those questions is zero, they can't even begin to insure you. And so we needed to find a solution that would solve all four of those problems without significantly increasing our expenses, because I was the primary fundraiser also, and I didn't get into the nonprofit world because I love fundraising. I got into it because I like fixing cars and helping people. So we determined that the easiest solution would be to just start an auto repair shop. So why not just go out there, get a building, start an auto repair shop, start a small business in an industry I'd never even worked in before and wasn't really even a customer of. I thought, how hard could it be? And then I found out it was a lot harder than I thought.
You mean it didn't just go smooth sailing from the very beginning, huh? So,
Well, it,
yeah,
it felt like it did at first, right?
yeah.
So all the excitement and energy, we found a building. I actually purchased a building that I found. I'd saved up money when I worked at Microsoft, so I had some resources. I bought a building that would work, and I hired a couple technicians and I hired a manager. And because of our reputation in the community, we had customers on day one, and it was so exciting and it was so much fun. And we thought, man, we figured this out. We're killing it. And then, we kept going, we started doing things like, accounting and figuring out, what our profit was on the business, and started going long enough to actually have a month by month P&L, and realizing that this business wasn't working the way we thought it was. We started relatively large. We had 3 employees and myself, so 4 full-time people working there. And we were doing, $30,000, $35,000 a month in revenue right out of the gate. So it felt great. But the reality is we weren't organized right, and we were losing $5,000 to $10,000 a month. And that is not sustainable.
Yeah. Okay. So you must have realized at that point, okay, if this isn't sustainable, it's not working. Where did you turn, right? Where did you go from there?
Well, that was the hard part, right? Because I didn't know where to turn. I didn't have a lot of connections in the automotive industry. I didn't have a lot of connections in the small business world. And so I was really stuck. I thought I could go ask my neighbors. There's other shops around me, and ask what they're doing to see if I could figure out. But honestly, they weren't doing a lot better than I was. And so that didn't seem like a great option. I knew a couple other business mentors that I talked to, but they didn't know a lot about my industry. And so I was struggling, and I got really worried about, 5, 6 months into this. I just didn't know what I was going to do. And I was afraid not only was I going to lose the business, but because the business and the nonprofit were so tightly coupled, that I might lose the nonprofit with it. And I didn't know what to do. And, for whatever reason, Facebook, probably listening to everything I say on a day-to-day basis through my phone, decided to tell me about this group of auto shop owners. And there was this auto shop owner coaching company that I found. And I didn't know something like that. It never occurred to me like something like that would exist. And why would I have? So I never looked for it. But I reached out to them and found out that they were having a conference. And we thought, well, we're not, this isn't working now. We need to find a better way. What is it going to hurt to go talk to them? So we went to this conference and met a whole bunch of other people that were in a very similar situation with struggling businesses. And the people who did this conference and had this coaching company had solutions on how to run an auto repair shop well. And so we decided we started working with them.
Yeah. Okay. And so when you started working with them, this must have been, if you're in a struggling business, right? And now you're paying to go to a conference, and now you've got to pay to hire them, right? So this is probably a pretty big financial decision at that moment.
It's not cheap to get into the coaching. The total cost, because there's conferences every quarter and there's a monthly fee to be part of this, it costs about $20,000 a year for this particular organization that we're in. By the time you pay for all your travel and everything, that's a lot of money for a company that's losing money every month. But I do see, I've always put a lot of value in education, and how else am I going to get this education? I could try and learn it and figure it out, losing money or not making money over the next 5 or 10 or 20 years, or I could work with some people who really know it, pay them a little bit, and shorten that time frame down to months. And that's ultimately what we did. And I'll be honest, I was a little bit skeptical when I signed up with them, but this particular organization I worked with, they don't have any type of contract. So they have to prove themselves every month. So I'm like, you know what? I'm going to join. If the first couple months don't go right, I can always leave. And I joined and I realized just how much I was missing on understanding how to run an organization. Like I knew how to, we had software to manage the cars coming in and out, and we knew how to answer the phone, but we didn't have all the systems, the pricing, the pay structures, the marketing plans, like all of these pieces that we had to try and figure out on our own. And that's a lot of stuff to try and learn. And one of the things that we were struggling with is when we started, we were small. We were doing $30,000 to $35,000 a month in sales, and we would figure out a system that would work at that level. But then when we would grow, the system would break because it wasn't supporting that. And so by working with these coaching companies, they gave us systems that would work for businesses that were 10 times our size or 50 times our size. So when we put those in place and we grew, we didn't just keep hitting ceiling after ceiling. We're able to grow much faster.
Got it. Yeah, that's so frequently what we talk about with our coaching clients is like, I have no doubt given enough time and experience, you could figure out everything we do, right? And but what we bring is the experience of all these other people, because contrary to what a lot of people tell you, the best way to learn is not through experience, it's through other people's experience. Our experience is painful and expensive.
Crazy
So,
expensive.
yeah. So now, what were you gave a few things there, Matt, but like what were a few of the early things that really got things moving in the right direction for you?
So some of it was just around the day-to-day management of all the cars coming in and coming out. And what we find, or what I found, what I was doing is, we were relatively small. We were trying to keep everything in our head. And we didn't have any type of systems for tracking all the cars that were coming in, where they're at in the process, what they need, are they getting done on time? We're just trying to hold all that in our head. And you can hold a certain amount of it in your head, but eventually stuff starts leaking out and you miss details. And then every time you make a mistake, that takes a lot of energy to fix. And so if we can eliminate that, that was huge. So that was one of the big things that we weren't doing right. The next thing is we weren't pricing our products properly. And, what do we need to price our product at? Well, one, you need to know what your actual cost is. And for us, we're both service and parts. So we're kind of on both the service and retail side. We need to know what our cost is so we can charge at least that much to do the work, and preferably with a little bit of net profit on top of that, right? And so
Yeah.
without understanding our costs really well, we weren't able to price things properly. And our goal, of course, we don't want to be really expensive, but I also don't want to be the cheapest place in town. And our goal is to be the best value. And so what can we do to add that value and to make sure that we're the best value on price? And so we put a lot of those pieces in place. And then the last one that was really important for us right away was understanding how to market well. We had this feeling like because we do so much in our community, we give away all these cars, we fix cars for people in need, that we get a lot of community support, and we absolutely do. But that's not enough to keep the growth level that we want. And it isn't getting the word out there. We have to go out there and be talking to people. And so how do you do that effectively? Because it is really easy to spend a lot of money on marketing that ultimately gets you nothing. And so knowing things that work, marketing plans that work, knowing how to analyze that to see what kind of return you're getting on your marketing is all really, really valuable for us to help grow that business. Because part of the secret to most businesses, and especially auto repair, is volume. We have a certain amount of overhead. We have to outrun that overhead. So
Yeah.
we either have to charge a lot of money, which I don't want to do, or we can do a lot of volume to outrun that overhead and charge roughly the same as everybody else. And the only way to do that volume is to have the good systems in place and good marketing so you have enough customers.
Yeah. How quick was the turnaround? How quickly were you able to right size and get going in a
Yeah.
positive direction?
So one of the advantages I had was I didn't have any bad habits because I didn't have any habits at all. I really just didn't know what I was doing. And so, I brought other people in to help, but they didn't have, my technicians and stuff, but they didn't have any real experience either. So I just started implementing system after system. And in doing that, within a couple months, we stopped losing money. And honestly, when we first started, that was my whole goal, is let's just stop losing money. But it was a couple months. We did a little more revenue. We stopped losing money. A few months later, we add another technician. We grow from $35,000 a month to $60,000 a month to 100. We got up to about $150,000 a month, and then we had things going smooth enough that we decided to go get a second location, and we did that right in 2020 in the middle of COVID. Everything shut down, and here we're out buying another building to open another shop from scratch. We did that. I mean, I look back and say, why did I do that? It was an excellent move, but it was a kind of gutsy move. But I did that because I borrowed the confidence from my coach. Like, I didn't have the confidence because I hadn't done it yet, but he had. And with the confidence, borrowing his confidence, we're able to do that. That location has been incredibly successful for us. In 2022, we bought a third location. In 2024, we bought a fourth location, or sorry, 2023, we bought a fourth location. So we ended up growing from $35,000 a month in the end of 2018 to now we consistently do well over $1 million a month in revenue across our 4 locations. So in about 6 years, we were able to do about over a 30x increase in business.
What's been the most that's impressive. Congratulations, by the way. But what's been the most challenging part of that growth? Because that's pretty rapid growth from where
Right.
you were.
Without question, the challenge is all around being able to build and hire and train a great team. It's all about the people. If you do a good business and you market well, getting customers isn't really that hard. If you've got your systems in place and the systems support the size you want, you just follow those systems. Finding great people to be on the team and training them, and I'd say now probably our bigger side of the challenge is building the leadership side that we need for an organization this big, so that we can keep raising up the people that work for us and building that leadership. It's hiring. Hiring people is relatively easy. Hiring good people is a lot harder, and then giving them the tools they need to really be successful, of course, is probably the hardest part that we have to work with.
Yeah, I was talking with another CEO this morning, and different business, but what he said is, at our growing company, we have a very clear track to take in a technician and raise that technician up through the ranks. He said, but when it comes to developing leaders, he's like, we just don't have those systems.
It's hard.
That's harder work, because it's not the technical skills we're training, it's the soft skills, or what I like to call the superpower skills. And that's a challenge. And for a lot of businesses, growing leaders is the cap on their growth.
Absolutely. And it's the soft skills, the people skills that we're struggling with. It's a mindset situation that can hold people back from leadership. And one of the bigger things that I find is, if I can find people that have that can see the big picture and understand the big picture, then they can be very effective as leaders, because they don't need to know all the details on how to do stuff. They can figure it out. If you understand the big picture of where we're going, they can make the small decisions and we can delegate to them really easy. But finding those people is hard, and I don't know how to train people to be able to do that. Like, I still haven't found a way to do that.
Yeah. Okay. But now you're now such a believer in coaching that you're coaching other businesses who used to be in your old shoes. So talk to me about that transition and what that's like for you today.
Yeah, so about 2.5 years into the coaching, I actually transitioned from being coached to being a coach. And it was interesting because shortly before they approached me to ask me if I'd be willing to do it, I really had thought I didn't want to do that. And in my mind, I thought, I don't want to waste the time that I could be putting into my own business on helping other people run their businesses. And I'm like, I just don't want to waste that. I've got more important things to do. But I had a change of heart a little bit before they approached me, and I realized that none of that time was wasted. And so not only am I able to give back to people, but I get so much education and insight from helping other people work through their struggles that it helps my business run better. So there is no minute of wasted time. It's just, 20 or 30 hours a week that I put into it is all education for me.
Yeah. Wow. Fun. And what would you say, Matt, as you think back over your journey, we talked about what a big investment coaching is. What would you say to those entrepreneurs who are trying to figure it out on their own and are kind of, I don't know, can I afford this? Should I hire a coach? How do you help them think about that?
Well, I certainly believe that if you're going to run a business, it's an all or nothing kind of thing. I never or seldom see people that are successful when they're just kind of dipping their toe in the water and let's try this. If we're going to commit to doing this, let's commit 100% and do this all the way. And let's go try and get the best education we can. And not all coaching companies are the same. They're not all going to provide the same value. And so, I don't have any real strong recommendations on that. Although I do firmly believe that a coaching company should be proving themselves every month and providing value every month. And some have really long contracts. There's another coaching company in the automotive field that wants people to sign a 5-year upfront contract. And that to me it's insane because you don't know if you're going to get value from it or not. And they might not be the right fit for you. Not every, the coaching company that I work for, I think is fantastic, but it might not be the right fit for everybody. And so people need to be able to find that. But I think that going out there and finding other people that are working with them and hearing about the success they've seen is very valuable. And then making sure that this is an organization that has a lot of insight into other businesses. So I don't want somebody teaching you out of a book, right? You can read the book yourself. I want somebody teaching you from their experience, whether it's their own personal experience or the experience they have working with all these other organizations that they're coaching. They should be able to be providing that on a regular basis. And they should be, it's up to them to keep doing that, or you should be able to walk away.
Yeah. I could not agree more. And I think, right, the general idea is a coach is going to help you get there faster. Now, you're right, especially as I look across, coaching is a growing industry, and now almost anyone can hang a shingle out and say, I'm a coach. So it is buyer beware. You do have to be careful and really look into that track record closely.
Absolutely. They should have a history that can prove that they know what they're doing, or that they've been able to successfully help other people to be able to provide that kind of that coaching for you. And I talk to people who don't feel they need a coach all the time, and I kind of sarcastically say, because Michael Jordan and LeBron James, they never had a coach. Wait, they had lots of coaches, and they were the best, right? The best in their field ever, and they still had people coaching and helping them improve. So there's so much value that can be gained from that. And as a small business owner, as we learn how, there's no limits on what we do. The cap in our business is the leader every time. So the more we can grow ourselves, the more opportunity we have to grow the business. And in my experience, the bigger and better you're able to run the business, the more enjoyable it is.
For sure. And speaking of that growing business, I want to talk now about the culture of Fix It Forward, right? So you told me before when we were chatting is your goal was to create a place where people want to retire, right? They want to come and they want to stay. So how do you build that kind of a culture? Not only as an organization, but now with growing one and across 4 locations. And how do you think about building that kind of a culture?
Well, the first thing that we always started with is I spend a lot of my mental headspace thinking, what is this position going to be like for them? What do they get out of this? Is this, from their perspective, if I put myself in their shoes, what is this position going to be like? And is this going to feel like a good deal for them? And there's a lot of times that from a business leader will say, well, this is important to me, and therefore we're going to make everybody do it. And the reality is it's a huge burden on an employee and may not provide a lot of value. So let's always look at it from their perspective and saying, does this make sense? We also have I left Microsoft not because I didn't like my job there, but because I didn't feel a strong sense of purpose. I wasn't being able to change the world for people because I was just such a small part of such a big thing. And there might have been other things I could have done there that would have given me more purpose, but I want to make sure that anybody who works for me feels that. In our nonprofit side, that our shop exists to enable our nonprofit. Our nonprofit side provides that sense of purpose. And it's amazing they see all these cars. We've given away 590 cars in our community. We've done over 1,500 free car repairs for people in need. And so being able to do this stuff and be part of it, even if they're not the one turning the wrench, they know that by working in the shop, they're enabling the nonprofit and they're allowing these pieces to happen, gives a huge sense of value. And then because of the good that we do in the community, we're very much respected in the community. And so when they go out to the grocery store or they go to a restaurant and they're still wearing their work clothes that has the business name on it, people stop them all the time and say, oh my goodness, thank you so much. You helped my aunt when she was in need. You helped my brother when they were struggling, and it changed their life. And that kind of purpose, boy, you just don't want to walk away from.
Yeah. Yeah. We see that more and more too today, especially as this younger generation is coming into the workforce, right? They were brought up saying, you can change the world, you can make a difference, right? And they show up at our workplaces asking, where do I get to make that kind of a difference? And if we give them the opportunity to do that, they don't want to leave.
Why wouldn't we give them that opportunity, right? And so how we can do that, that's why I love, we have a very tightly coupled businesses. They're two separate organizations, our for-profit auto repair shop and our nonprofit auto repair ministry, but they're tightly coupled. And everything that we do on the shop side enables the nonprofit side to do what it does better.
That's great. And now, speaking of that for-profit side, you talked about what you do from a customer experience perspective, and that I think, as you put it, that the auto industry, because people are dropping off vehicles that they don't understand, they just know something's not right. And if they drop it off, it seems like there's always that one thing right and six other things, but you said that trust gap is primarily a communication gap.
Yeah. So we really focus.
Yeah.
We focus on the customer experience a lot. And the biggest problem, in my opinion, with the auto repair industry is trust. People just don't trust shops. And you see this all the time on TV shows and in pop culture. There's a trust problem. Now, I don't believe, my experience, I've worked with a lot of auto repair shops, both in my community and around the U.S. I don't believe all but a very small minority of these shops are actually trying to take advantage of people. Like there's very few that are actually consciously trying to take advantage of people. The large majority aren't. But what happens is there's a communication gap because we're dealing with something that's very complex. I mean, automobiles have gotten incredibly complex, and people generally don't understand how they work, nor should they. And if we don't communicate well what's going on and why, then they feel like we're trying to take advantage of them. And so we work very hard to make sure that I hire people that the people that interact with the customers are very good communicators, that they can explain what's going on, why. We don't want to go into crazy detail because a lot of times people don't care, but we want to give them enough information so they can understand how we got here, what we need to do, what's in their best interest, and they can make the smart decision. And the smart decision might not be to fix the car, or it might be, but they should have enough information to do that.
Right. Yeah, I've said over and over again that in the absence of information, people assume the worst.
Oh,
right. So
totally.
if you're not communicating well, you're not going to have a happy customer. In fact, like I've seen it before where essentially, like, can you even have a good customer experience if you don't have great communication? Arguably not.
Right. Oh, I totally agree. And so what we do to help enable this is, one, we have great people that work the front counter and answer the phones. So they're very good at communicating. We also use technology to make it easier, where we take pictures and videos of problems on the car so people can see the severity. And we use that if they're not there. But if they happen to be in our shop, sometimes they're waiting in the lobby and we discover something that might be going on with their car. We walk them right underneath the car and we show them, hey, see how that thing's wiggling back and forth? It's not supposed to do that. And once that falls off, your car's done. Let's make sure that we should probably get this fixed. And so being able to be really clear on that has been incredibly helpful for our customers, and just builds a lot of trust, because there's enough broken cars out there that we can't fix all of them. We don't need to make stuff up. But we do want to make sure that we're helping any of our customers make the right decisions so that their car is as safe and reliable as it can.
Now, how do you get, Matt, how do you get good people that do that, right? Is it in hiring? Is it in training? What do you think about for those, the people who are really in direct communication with your customers?
Well, one of the things, and this wasn't part of my plan, but it worked out this way, is because of our whole nonprofit side and giving back to the community, we attract people that want to be part of our organization that really care about people and that just honestly care. And so there's a lot of people out there that think that what we do is crazy. Why are you giving away all those cars? It's just a giant headache that you've created for yourself. I don't know why you do that, and that's okay. They don't have to agree with what we're doing, but they also aren't very good fits for working here. We want to hire people that honestly care about the customer and care about helping other people, and our nonprofit side attracts those people that are what I like to call, they're givers, right? That they want to do what they can to help whenever they have that opportunity. And so that's a huge part of what we're able to do.
Yeah, well, this is great. Tell me now, let's look forward a little bit. Where are you, and where is Fix It Forward going from here? What does the future look like? You've been able to, as you say, grow 30x over the last 7 years. What does it look like as you project out into the future?
Well, we created the shop to enable the nonprofit. That was kind of our whole thing. And so the more we're able to grow the shop, the more we're able to grow the nonprofit. And so right now, what we're doing is we're focusing on supporting our entire community that we live in and having enough locations within that community. And as we add those locations, add that 5th location, that 6th location, we're learning how to do that better and better so that we can work our way out into other communities around here. Because one thing we've noticed, in the world of auto repair, proximity is really important. Like, we can't fix a car that's 200 miles away. Logistically, it doesn't make sense to bring it here. So we work with a lot of nonprofits, and we work with about 40 other nonprofits and service agencies that help feed us the people in need that we want to help. So we kind of use them to be our case managers. And when we're talking to them, they're saying, man, what you do is so incredible and so helpful for us. But we have partners in other cities around the region that don't have anything like this. And we'd really love to see your nonprofit in that community. And so what we're doing is we're trying to build a replicable business so that we can start moving into these other communities. If we can put our shop in that community, then we can also, again, bring our nonprofit into that community and start helping people in those smaller communities also, or bigger communities, just these other locations. There aren't, I've worked with a lot of other shops. There's other nonprofits out there that give away cars, that fix cars. There's some absolutely amazing organizations doing that. I know a lot of people that run them. But I haven't found another one that has a partnership with the for-profit and nonprofit like what we've done. And that partnership, our goal is to enable us to push this into other communities so we can just support more people in that area. Right now, our goal is to give away 10 cars a month. We're trying to fix 10 to 15 cars a month. We're giving away another 10 cars a month. But if we were able to expand in these surrounding communities, why can't we be giving away 20 cars a month or 100 cars a month? How many more people could we affect if we did that?
Huh. Cool. Well, yeah, that's an inspiring vision.
Yeah.
Now, how about as it relates to you, Matt? You're running a ministry and a for-profit that are both growing. You've got coaching that you're doing. What what drives and motivates you, and what does that look like for Matt in the future?
What drives me is being able to build an organization that enables people to help people. And so the more we're able to grow this and the better we're able to run this, the more people that can get involved. And we have so many volunteers and so many employees. We're at 55 full-time employees. We have hundreds of volunteers that help us with the nonprofit side. They love what they're doing. And why not keep growing this so we can have hundreds of employees and thousands of volunteers that are involved and being able to get that same sense of purpose and value in their day from being able to help other people, not to mention all the people that are getting this assistance, being able to get back on their feet and being able to change their life. So my goal is to keep growing what we're doing so we can keep affecting more people. And as we're doing that, providing more opportunity for the people that work here to grow into the roles that I am. Right now, I started out, I was working as a service advisor in a shop. We hired an advisor, I work as a manager. We hire a manager, I work as a district manager. As every time I move up and start doing something else, I'm creating more opportunity for people who work for me to be part of the organization underneath.
What would you say, Matt, to I talk to a lot of business owners who want to have that kind of an impact.
Right.
Right. But they come from this mindset of like business and impact are almost separate, right? Like I might have a faith or I might have a desire for purpose, but on the business side, it's just business.
Yeah.
What advice would you give to the ones who are thinking, well, maybe I could put those together?
Well, first of all, the idea that business and your passion are completely separate might work in a corporate setting, but for entrepreneurs, our business and our life are so intermingled. There is no work-life balance. It's a work-life blend, right? And so I feel like in a situation where you have a business, and I don't care if you're fixing cars, if you're doing taxes for somebody, if you're a restaurant, you're an expert at doing what you do, and there's no person more qualified to help other people in that situation than you are. For me, starting the nonprofit, not having experience in an auto repair shop, it was very difficult for me to fix the cars. For an existing auto repair shop to start helping other people, it's extremely easy. They already have all the skills, all the tools, all the passion that they need to do that. So I think that I encourage everybody to find a way to give back within the realm of what their business does. If you paint houses, go paint house for an elderly widow that can't afford to get that done and needs it done. If you're a tax person, go help some veteran with their taxes and just start doing that. It doesn't take a lot of time, considering because you're so good at what you do, but the impact it makes on them is just a multiple of your effort.
Yeah. Well, Matt, it's really been fascinating to hear about your purpose and what that's led to. And I know lots of our listeners are going to want to keep up with your story. So where should they go to connect with you or follow you?
You can see what we're doing. The best way is to follow us on social media. We're on all the different social medias under Fix It Forward Auto Care and Fix It Forward Ministry. We have two separate things. You can follow both of them. You can go look at our website. There's a lot of information on there, and just be able to follow along with what we're doing, because we post a lot of what we do out there so people can see the growth.
Unfortunately, my cars are too far away to bring to you, but I will connect on social media and be watching you.
Well, we'll work on growing so we can get closer to you.
There you go. Well, Matt, really, this was fantastic. Thanks so much for being a part of building Love Businesses. I can just imagine with all what you're juggling, how valuable your time is. And on behalf of our listeners, we're honored that you spent some of it with us.
I just love the idea of other people realizing the opportunity that they have to be able to make a bigger impact in their community, because once you start, you're not going to want to stop.
Yeah, cool. Well, thanks again. And to all of our listeners, thanks for tuning in. If you enjoyed this episode, leave a review and share it with someone who's building something great in their corner of the world. Then make sure you subscribe on your favorite streaming platform so you will never miss an episode. I'm Nathan Schock. We'll see you next time.